Hey everyone, and welcome back to another installment of the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today studied theater, then communications at California State University, Northridge. He had his interview for Club Med in Los Angeles at Universal Studios and was interviewed by none other than Mr. Kenton Smith. His first season was in Club Med Punta Cana in 1987-88 as a DJ. He met his future wife there and has been married now for 30 years. There is much more to this story on how he met his wife that we will dive into, so buckle up, seasoners. He is also the owner of The Silent DJ, Southern California's only locally owned, operated, and interactive silent disco company. What the heck is that? Well, keep listening, friends, and we will tell you. From the Golden State, please help me welcome Mr. Marty Glassman. Hey, Marty, how are you?
I'm fabulous. Hey, Greg. Hello, everyone.
All right. Thanks for coming on, agreeing to share your story with us. That's very kind of you, because I do like when people say yes. So I reached out to you. You responded immediately, and I wish every guest was like you.
Not at all. I'm happy to come on and talk about when I was young and in shape and had the world in front of me.
Yeah, and you
down by life. I'm kidding.
And you were in the probably Geo in the greatest decade anyone's ever known, the 80s, but we're going to get into that in the music. I found it interesting because I work at a university in Montreal. You had studied theater. Can you tell everyone why you switched from theater to communications, please?
There I was going from high school into college. I really wasn't into theater much in high school, but I just didn't know what I wanted. And there I was going 17, 18 years old, going into college and pick a major. Okay, I'll do theater. And I did. And then I'm kind of going through the motions in theater. And I got through four years of theater. And probably I would say my third year in, I kind of thought, what am I doing? I'm getting a degree from theater from California State University, Northridge. Oh boy, the bright prospects there. So I decided to change majors and I kept my theater degree, kept moving forward on it, but I also simultaneously started working on my communications degree, which I loved, and ended up getting that. And I didn't quite get a dual degree because there was one project that they asked me to do. That was my last project to get my degree in theater, and I refused to do it. So I never actually got my degree in theater, but very happy having my degree in communications. I loved it.
Well, if I'm hearing you correctly, Marty, and I think I am, while you were doing the semesters in theater, were you worried about eating later? Like, was food was that why you had switched? Like, how am I going to feed myself?
Yeah, something kicked in. Okay. Hey, maybe you want to think about, I don't know, life after college. So that was probably my little Marty, my inner Marty going, you should have a backup plan.
Okay.
So I went with communications, and I loved it. I mean, that's something we use every day, whether it's group or interpersonal or persuasive techniques or all sorts. So I just loved it, and I talk a lot, so it worked out great.
Okay, well, I'm going to hope to get a word in edgewise here, listeners. So Marty's going to go on timeout if he doesn't let me ask him questions, but he's already agreed to that. Yeah. So we said you're from California. You're from Encino, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, so just tell us, how did you find out about Club Med? Was it someone that you knew that went there?
Right. So I was actually a DJ in college, a friend of mine doing events. I was in theater at the time, and another friend of mine who was a kindred spirit of thinking, what are we doing? He said, listen, I've got this great job and you're going to love it. It's being a DJ. And I thought, oh, well, and terrific. And I always loved music. My brother was a professional entertainer and singer. So he introduced me to all sorts of types of music and genres. And I had a really broad base of music that I enjoyed. So, hey, I went into it. Let's give this a shot, and started. I joined a company. The man was not quite the nicest, but I absolutely, from the time, my first time I went out, which was a fraternity party at UCLA, I cleared $35 for 6 hours work. I went home the next morning, and I said to my mom and dad, I found my niche. This is what I want to do. And I never ever thought next year it'll be 40 years, but I just fell in love with DJing. And 40 years later, I love it as much or more than ever. So very fortunate, found my thing.
Was $35 a lot of money back then for what, 5 hours, you said?
It was not.
Okay. I thought it was, and you were like, all right, parents, I cracked it. I cracked the code.
There it is.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
No, that was, but it didn't matter. I mean, it was $35 after I rented the wreck of a van, and after I paid the guy.
Okay.
So that rented me the equipment. And so,
okay.
Pretty funny.
All right. Good. Now, so how do you apply to Club Ed? Someone just said, hey, you should just apply and see what happens.
Right. So very funny. I was heading towards graduation. I was freaking out because, my perspective was always, you go through school, and it's just you just progress. And for me, it wasn't a lot of thought. You go from elementary school into junior high, and junior high into high school, and high school, I don't know, you go to college. And so I went into college, and I loved my classes. So I was there, graduated on the 6-year degree, but now I'm edging towards, I'm going to be graduating, and what am I going to do now? And I remember seeing friends and people and fellow students going to career fairs with and walking around those, and seeing representatives from Xerox and Litton and Jergens, and just the thought of working in an office was so antithetical to what I wanted, and I was starting to freak out. And I remember just this epiphany with my mom, thinking, it just hit me, I can do anything. And I remember saying to her, if I want to go teach windsurfing on an island, I can do that. And it's my life. And sure enough, about a month later, a friend of mine that was DJing at this company with me, a second company, much more enjoyable, said, hey, I saw an ad in the paper for Club Med, and they're looking for people. And I thought, oh, well, what's that? So I looked it up, and wow, that sounded pretty neat. And so I found out they were holding interviews at Universal Studios at the hotel there, and I was able to get an interview. Yeah, when I remember meeting with Kenton and speaking with him, and nice guy, and him, just as I'm talking, I'm very energetic and enthusiastic about stuff. So I was just the thought of meeting people from all around the world, and he kept just laughing and shaking his head and checking boxes, and he turned to me and he said, hey, I want you for my village. And I went, wow, well, that's a good sign. So yeah. So when I finally got the call, I don't know how many weeks later, oh man, that was one of the landmark moments of my life, where they told me I'm going to be working in the Dominican Republic. And I didn't know where that was. And I actually called information 411 and asked the operator, where is that? And she said, I think it shares an island with Haiti. I went, okay. And got up the World Book, and oh man, that was so exciting.
Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong, 411, that was really, I mean, she didn't really have to answer that, right? I mean, that was
she did not. She could,
okay.
She could tell you where the number of the local pizza place, but
okay.
that we called that information back in the day. So
okay, that's right. What so tell me, what do you remember? Do you remember arriving? Do you remember your flight? Like give me everything. Whatever you can remember.
I will, absolutely. So this was my first time away from home, and I was super excited. And I remember flying in, I remember flying in to Florida and for the short hop to take another flight to Dominican Republic. And I'm waiting in the airport and I've got, my duffel bag and an old ratty straw hat and a tank top. And I'm sitting in the in the little lounge before the gate. And some guy, his name was Chris, really good guy. We became really good friends there. He comes up and I'm just jazzed. And you can see I'm kind of vibrating with excitement. I'm smiling. And he's the old veteran Geo that's done numerous. And he looks at me, he's like, dude, Geo? And I go, yeah. And he said, I said, how can you tell? He's going, I can tell, trust me. And he comes over and he sits down and we start talking. And then he gets up and he walks away. And within, I don't know, minute and a half, this gorgeous blonde, just heart-stopping, comes and sits down next to me. And she leans in and she says, are you a Geo? And I said, yeah. And she puts her hands on me. She's rubbing my chest and I love Geos. And I said, really? Well, my name's Marty. I'm Liesa. And sure enough, Chris plops down in the chair on the other side of me and just starts laughing. Hey, this is my girlfriend. And we all started laughing and we became great friends. And my first day, we fly in and because I'm the DJ, I scored and I scored a bis room. And for those that don't know, it is a single room. So I didn't have to share with anyone because I'd be coming in late at night. So I had my own room with an adjoining bathroom with another gentleman. So Liesa knocks on my door. This was my first day there and says, you want to go to the beach? And I said, great. Yeah. Pretty much just like that, with my voice hitting the upper register. And we went down to the beach and we get down there and we're just about to go into the water and she takes off her top and I went, I love Club Med. I actually told her that. And we both took a swim and it was a great start to a great experience. So
yeah, that whole topless thing was part of my culture shock at Club Med. Nothing really prepares you for it, and of course they're acting like it's nothing. You've just got there. You don't know what's going on, like.
No. And it is. And the interesting thing is you do get so used to it that I remember returning to go back home and being on the beach and seeing women with their tops on and thinking, well, that's a little weird. I did have a funny experience though, when I first went down there as an American guy in California. I mean, no one wears Speedos. And so people had told me, oh, you probably want to get a Speedo because, it's all European guys and nobody wears board shorts and this and that. And okay, so I went over to Big Five, which is a sporting goods store, and bought some Speedos that are typical Speedos that we used to wear on swim team back in high school. And when I showed up, I remember the two nurses there, Angelique and Emmanuel. They became friends too. They were both French. As soon as they saw my Speedos, they started laughing, and I got self-conscious. What? People wear Speedos, and they're saying, "Oh, did you steal those from your mother?" Because they were too big. They were too wide, and they pitched in and bought me a pair that were really skinny, and that we used to call those marble bag holders, and we used to, and I just laughed, and I was a little self-conscious, but then I got so used to it, and it did feel so great swimming in them, and so when I returned back home, I remember going to the beach with probably about 6 buddies, and we're all at the beach, and everybody's putting down their towels, and I put down my towel, and I've got my board shorts on, and everyone's laughing and talking. Did you go here? Hey, maybe we can go. And conversations going on. And I pull down my board shorts and I'm wearing Speedos, the one thing. And everyone simultaneously turned, pointed at me, and said, "No." So that was a kind of rude awakening. Oh yeah, I'm back home. Okay.
Yeah, the simple no. Yeah, that'll do it. All right. Well, take me back to Punta Cana. Now, so they stick you. Okay, so you're a DJ. What's the music like in the late 80s? What are you playing a lot of? Do you recall it?
Yes. So I was coming from a background in nightclubs and events. So we were playing back in the day, we were in. When I was DJing through 84, 85, 86, 87, leading up into Club Med, we were playing everything from, the new wave stuff like New Order and, Blue Monday and English Beat, also Billy Idol, all sorts of stuff, to, of course, Madonna and Janet Jackson and that kind of stuff. But there when I arrived at Club Med in Punta Cana, we had a lot of Europeans, and they have a very, I should say, back then anyway, a limited taste on what they wanted. So, all I would really play, I would start to branch out and play different music and Devo, and they no, don't you have Madonna and Michael Jackson, and that was it. It was Madonna or Michael Jackson. If you strayed from either of that, they started to get a little hostile. It was very funny, but a little frustrating as the DJ. But it really kind of taught me. And when I arrived, I didn't have much music because it was all records. And the only records I had were those that were there. So I remember how excited I was when I finally spoke with my chef de village and had him order new records. And I got a whole shipment of just some great music. And, and I was very happy to kind of branch out a little. I kind of pulled our guests along with me. And something that I took from my events background that usually many DJs don't make use of is I'm very interactive. So I'm pulling, doing a lot of interactive stuff with the crowd, getting everyone to do sing-alongs, clapping their hands, getting out there and leading a line dance. So they had never seen that. So I became very popular very fast. And I ended up becoming the #1 DJ in the American Zone for many years. Many months. So yeah, that was a good feeling.
All right. Now, at what point, because I think we should bring up your current wife, right? So, because I love when couples meet stories, right? So I deliberately held back in your intro that interesting part of this. So if you can just take me through how you met, what was she doing? Was she mini club? Set the story here for me. Tell me everything.
Absolutely.
Don't hold back, sir.
Happy to. Well, there I was. It was after my first month, and we, everybody meets inside for dinner in the big community dining hall. And then afterwards, typically we would all do crazy signs, and all the GOs would lead the GMs doing the crazy signs and that kind of thing. But before that happened, it was a little bit of a downtime until everybody finished dinner. And I remember sitting on the steps of where all the GMs would stand or sit and the GOs would be down below leading everyone. And I was just sitting, waiting. And this girl came up, and she's kind of cute, and she's wearing some white overalls and very tan. And I, just being usually friendly and outgoing, said, "Hi, I'm Marty." And she said, "Hi, I'm Catherine." And I started talking to her, and I said, "Of course. So where are you from?" And she said, "Oh, California." And I mean, we, being Club Med, we have GOs from everywhere, from Italy and Turkey and Canada and I mean, France and you name it. And hardly any were from California. And I said, oh, really? I said, where in California? See, she said Southern California, Los Angeles. And I said, oh, okay, where? And she said, San Fernando Valley. And I said, where? And she said, Granada Hills. And I said, Encino, which happens to be about 6.5 miles from Granada Hills. And we started laughing. I said, what school did you go to? Oh, Kennedy. I went to Birmingham. So we grew up right down the way from each other. And we laughed and started talking about all the places that we went, all the clubs that you went to try and sneak into in high school and the restaurants you like to go to. And so we kind of made plans that, oh, you know what, we're going to get together after Club Med. And she, I noticed this, she had this quality about her. I always say it was not quite as descriptive, but just something about her. And there was just a kindness and an openness and no artifice or anything like that. And it just, we never really took it very far, but it was interesting because I had so many friends that were fellow GOs that would periodically come up to me out of nowhere and say, hey, who you'd be great with is Kathy from Mini Club, because everybody had their title afterwards. So I was Marty the DJ and she was Kathy from Mini Club. And so I said, yeah, and doesn't she live near you? Yeah. I mean, numerous people said that. And one night we ended up just kind of kissing, but that was it. And she went on, fell in love with some French GM. And I ended up falling for a Canadian model that turned out to be Basic Instinct, my little Basic Instinct version. But we always
not all Canadians are like that. Okay.
No, I know that.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding, Marty.
No, you guys are delightful. But anyway, so long story short, about 1.5 years later, I went back to my DJ company that I was working at prior to Club Med. And she went on to do a couple of more villages. She returns back to her old company that she was working at before she left, which was a motion picture catering company. So they would do all the TV shows and movies and provide craft services, that kind of thing. They need a DJ for a party. So she ends up calling my company where I was currently working to try and schedule a DJ for an event. And then just offhandedly, she said, hey, by the way, does a guy named Marty work there? That was it. That was 34 years ago. So, wow. So yeah, we've been together ever since. Well, no, I shouldn't say ever since, but we did have a little break because she all the guys okay. A little the break was actually early on. We were dating for probably about 2 months. I'm kind of a lot if you're not ready for me. I mean, I'm a lot, but it was interesting because I was so not the guy that she would usually go for. All of her guys that she would be interested in earlier were Europeans. So she was very snobby. They were all, Francois and Emmanuel and, Guido and Pascal, and you dress a certain way, and here comes Marty Glassman from the Valley, and I wasn't the most cultured back then. I'm still probably not.
Well, what was it? The Speedos that won her over, because that's very European. It
was my winning personality. She just couldn't live without it. And she said to herself, oh, this guy's a DJ. I'm set for life. Anyway, yeah. So I'm
back off, ladies. He's mine, right?
Oh, look out. I'm hitching my wagon to this guy. So yeah, I'm glad she hung in there.
Yeah, she's a trooper, right?
She is a trooper. Trust me, everyone that knows us is like, God, I don't know how she does it.
All
But
right.
it's a funny story, and it's so great that we were there together. And because we'll say to each other, nobody knows how cool it was there at Club Med. And she even says, out of her 3 Club Meds that she worked, our village was probably, well, she said it was the best. I mean, it was just beautiful, and the people, and so it was a great experience to have together that we can look back on together.
Is there anyone in that village that you enjoyed working with, like besides the names we mentioned already? Is there anyone that?
You know, a friend of ours named Peter, who Peter Garrity, and I'll send him this podcast. I'm sure he'd love to hear it. So Peter was working. And by the way, Catherine worked for Mini Club, um, and and so we wouldn't really see each other much because she was so busy during the days, and in the evenings she's always been a kind of an early to bed kind of person. She's not really a firecracker at nighttime. So she went to the disco where I would DJ probably a couple of times when it was mandatory, and she was just exhausted with the kids. And if you ever get to interview her, she's very funny with
Yeah,
her.
would love to. Yeah, would love to.
Yeah, the working with the Mini Club. She had worked with Baby Club before. And I mean, she would laugh. She said, none of us had any experience with babies or children. And we're just, they'd be, people would drop off their kids, and they're supposed to pick them up at 4, and it's like 6 o'clock, and they're wandering around the village with the toddler saying, excuse me, you're supposed, oh, really? Oh, okay, we didn't, sorry. So I remember having a talk with her before we got married, and her saying, I gotta tell you, I don't really think I want to have kids. And it was a bit of a shock for me because I never really thought about, oh, I really want to have kids, but I never thought I wouldn't have kids. So that was a bit of a shocker, but she was so just exhausted from caring for it was such an exhausting time working Mini Club with the other people's children that she was just burned out. So here we are with a 25 and a 26-year-old years later. So we laugh about that as well. But Peter Garrity, I'll put a tail on this kite. Peter was Australian, and he was working in Mini Club with Catherine. In fact, I think he was her roommate for a little while. So all 3 of us became very good friends, and we still are friends today. I visited him in Australia and stayed with him. He's come out with his wife and stayed with us a few times. He's just a great, fun, down-to-earth guy. So yeah.
Well, like most Aussies, yeah. I mean, if you can't get along with an Aussie, then like you're probably the problem. You know what I mean? Like,
No, 100%.
yeah.
My brother and my family lives out in Australia, and I've been numerous times. And yeah, it's just a great, such a down to earth. They'll. I remember when I first went there the first time. We're so filled with euphemisms in our culture here in the U.S. And I remember getting off the plane and saying, "Excuse me," to somebody in the airport. "Excuse, do you know where the restroom is?" "Well, the toilet is right there."
Yeah.
So, I'm meeting somebody in a party. "Oh, so you're an instructor at the college?" "I'm a teacher." so, so very fun.
Yeah, yeah. There's it's kind of no frills in Australia, and then again, then
Nope.
you have to understand their language. Their Aussie English dictionary that are 2 pages long. Like they have
Oh
their own
yeah.
terms and everything. But yeah, God, I love that country though, man.
Oh
So
yeah, it's
so
great.
laid back. All right. Well, speaking of a DJ, let's just segue a little bit from Club Med, then we'll go back to Club Med, okay? Because I'm
Please.
really curious. I'm on your website. I'm looking at it. I'm still having a hard time deciphering what I'm looking at. So if you could explain me what exactly is the silent DJ for those who've never seen one or experienced it.
Absolutely. So I've been DJing, like I said, for next year, I believe 40 years. And it's, we see so many things at different events over the years. I mean, so many people are always trying to stick out, try something new, separate themselves from the party pack, clients. And it's so rare that I ever see anything and I say, okay, that's awesome. And so about 12 years ago, I was, and which means to say I've seen everything at events. So about 12 years ago, I was doing a wedding up the street from my house. It was actually the closest I've ever worked. It was down the block, and it was in the street. So they blocked off the street. They had all this great lounge furniture and fire pit, and it was a higher end wedding. And I was the DJ, and I brought my speakers, and of course it's going off. And at around 10 a.m., or I'm sorry, 10 p.m., 20 after 10, who shows up? And if I had $1 for every time a police officer poked me in the chest as a professional DJ and said, you have to shut it down now. And it was my first time in 30 something years that I was able to say, actually, I don't. And I had 90 pairs of wireless headphones that the client had rented because she grew up down the street, but her husband was Israeli. So in Europe and in Israel, silent disco has been going for years. And they had rented these headphones just in the case of getting a noise complaint. So I had a little transmitter in my system. I passed out 90 pairs of wireless headphones, and the police I shut off my speakers, and the police were laughing. They said, okay, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And people lost their minds. Everyone was coming up to me. Oh my, this is amazing. And just that reaction, I had never seen or experienced anything, people so over the moon about it. And putting on the headphones, I mean, I often, because I get this all the time, it's a very hard, I've never had something so incredibly successful and yet so incredibly difficult to sell, because people it's so far out of people's wheelhouse, they don't quite get it. Some do. It's like people going into a house that is for sale. Some people see the potential. Other people, it's just not, they can't unless it's staged, So once you put on those headphones, think about when you put earbuds in or you put headphones on yourself and you're listening to music, how immersive that is. Well, now imagine that experience and you look around and there's 400 or 500 people all in that immersive type of experience. And, I've heard all the negatives from people that have never tried it. And one of them is, well, it's so isolating. I mean, you're not, and it's exactly the opposite. Once you put those headphones on, you look around and you're in a shared experience with 300, 400, 500 people, and everyone is feeling the same vibe. And the cool thing is the headphones are actually 3-channel. So when we go out and we do a party or a function or a public event, we have 3 DJs playing simultaneously. So the headphones you're wearing have the ability to switch between all 3 DJs. And when you switch to a DJ, your headphone glows the color of the DJ you're listening to. So red, green, or blue. So everyone can look around and see who's listening to what, and people switch back and forth. So, and us as DJs, most of my DJs are fellow professional DJs and my good friends. So we have a blast seeing who can get the most people on their channel. And it constantly shifts back and forth. You look out there and typically it's very funny. I'm always on the blue channel and you'll look out and everyone's on blue and they're having a blast. and I glance down at my laptop and I get the next song ready, maybe 20 seconds, and I glance up and everyone's on red. And I look over at my friend Scott or my buddy Eddie, and they're all on red or green. And I switch over and I laugh and I look out and I say, okay, Uptown Funk, come on, because it's such low-hanging fruit. so it's very, very fun, and it's such a different experience for everyone, but it's so unique. And the other thing I tell people is, imagine when you have headphones on, how there's no self-consciousness. You just, because you can't hear yourself sing. So we think up all these goofy, fun sing-alongs that people just sing top of their lungs. And it's just so fun. We'll put on Dancing Queen by ABBA, and men, women, kids, everyone singing, Journey, Don't Stop Believing, or Living on a Prayer, or, all the fun, goofy sing-alongs. And it's such, like I said, it's such a unique, wonderful shared experience. And it's so much fun for us to do. It's the most fun I've ever had DJing. And my other DJs say the same thing. It's just a blast.
Awesome. Well, we're going to make sure and put the link with your episode so people can check it out, so
Sure.
I encourage everyone to check it out, especially if you're in the Southern California area, but for sure, right? Because it does, now that I understand it, the 3 different channels, this looks awesome, man.
Oh yeah. And I encourage everybody, if there's one in your area, no matter where you're living, definitely make the trip to go. I always like to ask the group, when everybody is losing their minds and dancing and laughing, I'll say, okay, how many people have ever done this before? And nobody. How many people think it's way more fun than they thought it would be? And everyone laughs and cheers and then I'll say, hey, how many people had to get dragged to this? And they laugh, because it is the type of thing that many people, if they haven't done it, they really won't seek it out. But there's never, ever been a time that people ever think, it was okay. They love it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Let's get back to Club Med. I got some rapid fire questions. Now, if you don't know the answer, that's fine, because it was a while ago. Did you have a favorite crazy sign at all that you enjoyed or still remember or still play today?
No favorite, but I have led Hands Up a couple of times at parties. So
okay,
it takes me back.
Being DJ, you probably didn't get a chance to do the shows. Just curious if you got on stage at all.
Oh yeah. I was the ringmaster for the circus quite a few times. I was because I had to leave early to go and DJ. I actually was. I counted myself fortunate to get, and I slept late, so I counted myself fortunate not to have to be in a lot of the shows. I would always run the spotlight for the shows, and I remember my friend Franck, he was French. He would be hunched over working the soundboard. He'd always have the obligatory cigarette dangling from his lip with the half closed eyes, and he was very funny. And but one of my favorite memories was running the spotlight for the hat dance, which
I think well, I still see photos circulating on, somebody posts photos of that every now and then on the various XGO Facebook groups. So basically it's a synchronized choreography with hats covering private parts of guys, right?
Yes, and everyone is naked, but before they would come out on stage, they would ply them with alcohol. So I just remember,
and some didn't even need it, right? They were like, hey.
Some did not need it. And I remember one, they were all out there and they're doing their hat dance, and it's actually very funny to watch. And I remember one, I don't know, he just dropped the hat and he's standing there on stage, and there's 600 GMs laughing and everyone's laughing. And of course I zoomed in with the spotlight, and I was laughing so hard I fell off of my stool and the spotlight swung up, and oh man, that was funny.
I was in the pool. Yeah. Okay. A little chilly in those Punta Cana nights.
Oh
Well, it was the
man,
winter. It was the winter season, folks.
it
Okay,
was.
it's
So
not
cut
his
him some
fault.
slack.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. I'm guessing because you said you're very animated, you're very talkative. So I'm guessing mealtime for you must have been like a show. I'm sure the guests were like looking at their watches, going, "How do we get away from Marty?" Okay, because
Oh,
normally it's the other way around, right?
what are
The
you
guest.
talking about, Greg?
Oh,
Everyone wanted to sit at Marty's table. My
okay.
goodness.
They
And
didn't say,
let me,
Marty, we got to get the show. It's 10 o'clock.
oh,
You never got any of that.
oh, come on.
Okay.
Yeah. I
You,
remember
but
once
you
on,
must have loved mealtime, I'm guessing, right? Like because
oh
of someone
yeah,
of your personality.
absolutely was, you know, that was for me, my takeaway from Club Med. My favorite part of Club Med was meeting people from everywhere. I remember, you know, and you'd sit at the tables and get a chance to talk and find out, you know, and the great equalizer was that we were at Club Med and I would be talking with adults that were probably my age now, but it wasn't even a thought. Oh, I'm talking with this older guy, or being out on the beach and talking with people and they're in their shorts, you know, and a pair of sandals, or just and talking. Oh, so what do you do? Well, I own a shipping company. Oh, you know, I own a stock trading and da 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 da, and just it was the, you know, Club Med was the great equalizer. You know, it was, I made a lot of great connections just with GMs that, you know, I got their numbers and they'd send me pictures and care packages, and it was great. It was really wonderful.
Okay, I've asked other XGO DJs this before. You know, Darren Wasson, he's from California, and TJ Walker. So okay, I'm gonna put you in the scenario. You're in a packed dance floor. You know, it's full. Everyone's vibing, but someone, it could be a European, could be North American, comes up to you and just gives you a buzzkill of her song. So did you have a go-to kind of, you know, not let them down, but in a polite way, tell them, like, other than saying I don't have that record, or did you have some creative way of telling them that you can't play that song right now, or like did you have a DJ thing, is I guess what I'm trying to get at, that you could
Oh,
easily.
sure.
Oh,
No, it was usually, as DJs go, our patented line would be, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't have that. So that's the quickest way to diffuse it. We still use that today, which is funny because if you think about it, now with the internet, we have everything. We can't really use that anymore.
that's
But
right. Yeah, yeah.
when you tell people in the moment, they're like, oh, or they, oh, well, you know, I don't have internet here. I'm sorry, I got a bad. But yeah, so you'd laugh at some of the requests we get. Yeah, very funny.
Okay.
I do have a funny anecdote about one of there were 2 weeks that I remembered out of my whole experience there that Catherine and I, we both laugh about. And it was when our village got taken over by Discovery Toys. And if you don't know what Discovery Toys is, it's an organization kind of like multi-level marketing or Amway or that kind of thing, where it was not necessarily multi-level, but kind of along those lines of, you buy a bunch of products, and in this case, they were educational toys for kids, and you hold parties in your home, like kind of like Tupperware. And you get all your friends together and you'd have these parties. And the more you sell, the higher up you go. And the biggest sellers won a week at Club Med Punta Cana at our village. So these were all housewives and moms. And we heard they were coming in, and they explained what the concept was and who these people were. And they were going to take over the village for 2 weeks in a row. One group coming in one week, another group coming in the next week. And we thought, and I, especially as the DJ, it's going to be pretty boring, a bunch of moms, because I mean, geez, I'm 24, you know, you think anybody 30 years or older is like, you're done, you know? So sure enough, they come in, and I am telling you, I have never seen that disco go off harder every single night. I mean, crazy. It was like New Year's Eve every night. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, especially Friday because they're leaving Saturday. And holy smokes, they were crazy and talking to all the male GOs. So that was a real experience for me, but just very fun and funny to see, and quite an education. So
Awesome. Nice story.
yeah,
All right, Marty, if you would permit me one last question about Club Med.
absolutely, please.
Okay, you really sound like a guy who you're glad you did it. Like you have zero regrets about going to Club Med Punta Cana. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Great experience, and it was such a positive experience. Just the people I met, the place was absolutely just, it was a tropical paradise. I tell people, when you look at those posters of palm trees stretching out over the water with coconut, that's where I lived, and it was fantastic. And the friends and the people I met from everywhere, just tens across the board on how positive it was. And I have so many young DJs that work with me that they're fresh out of college, and I tell them, listen, do this now. Go work for Club Med, go work for the cruise lines, because right now all the doors are open, just like they were for me back in the day. And the longer you live, the more life kind of weighs down on you with responsibility and obligations, and those doors start closing. So I've had 3 of my DJs go and work for actually 1 for Club Med and 2 for the cruise lines. And my nephew worked for the cruise lines after my experience, just because of I pushing them on, hey, do it now, because you'll never have the chance to do it again. So yeah, I look very fondly back on that experience.
Yeah, no, that's great advice to anyone listening. Do it now. Have some fun, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everyone. Man, Marty, I want to thank you. Please, again, that was so kind of you to come on the show and share your story with us. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Greg, for having me.
And listeners, please, I'm going to put the link in twice with this episode. Please check out his website. It's awfully cool, man. The original silent DJ. And you'll have to explain to me what, and yes, where the guys in Mammoth means in brackets. What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. Mammoth is a big ski resort in the West. And they've had us there for 10 years performing in the village there. So we love to ski, my friends and I. So we DJ and do silent disco at the bottom of the mountain every season. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, and a lot of people have seen us.
All right, everyone. That was Marty Glassman, and I'm going to let you take it away, Marty, in that sultry, smooth DJ voice of yours. Just thank our listeners for tuning in. Take it away.
All right. Well, a big thank you to all my listeners and all my fellow GOs out there. The times we had and how fit we were. So thanks again, everybody, for listening to me yammer about my Club Med days. Thank you, Greg, for having me on.
Thank you, sir. Really. Thank you very much, Marty. And we'll see you all next week with a new episode. Bye, everyone.
Don't miss it.